Have you ever seen a city that floats? A place where streets are made of water and the walls whisper to the waves. Venice rises like a dream from the sea, yet it is real. Boats drift where cars cannot go. Bridges tie islands together like threads in a tapestry. It feels fragile, as if one strong tide could carry it away. But Venice has been here for centuries, holding its secrets close. The water is calm today. It carries the smell of salt and the quiet sound of oars dipping in rhythm. Shadows move across the walls as sunlight ripples through the canal. Every stone here feels older than memory. Every window has watched hundreds of years pass by. And yet, Venice still feels alive, like a heart that beats with water instead of blood. Before we step deeper into this city's secrets, take a moment to subscribe. That way, you can join me on this quiet journey, not just through Venice, but through many stories the world has almost forgotten. Because once we leave this canal, we will wander into places you will want to return to again and again. Some say Venice began as a place of refuge. Others believe it was born from the sea itself, shaped by tides and destiny. The truth: it is hidden somewhere between history and legend. Let us go back, far back, to when the first poles were driven into the mud, and a city began to rise from the water. Long ago, before Venice had a name, the sea was both a danger and a shelter. People fled here, escaping war and invaders on the mainland. They came in small boats, bringing what little they owned. The lagoon was shallow, its muddy bottom hard to cross for armies. Here, they could hide among the reeds and the tides. It was not yet a city. Only scattered huts built on tiny sandbanks. But the water embraced them, and the people began to dream. The ground beneath the lagoon was soft, shifting with the tides. If you wanted to build here, you needed to make the earth where none existed. The settlers drove long wooden poles deep into the mud, hundreds for each building. On top of them, they laid planks and stone, slowly raising land from the water. It was work that took years, even decades. But with each pole, the city grew stronger, as if rooted in the heart of the sea. As years passed, small islands became neighborhoods. Wooden walkways turned into stone bridges. Boats replaced carts, and the sound of oars became the heartbeat of the place. There were no city walls, only the water, guarding its people like a living moat. It was unlike anything the world had seen before. A city born not on land, but in the arms of the sea. And yet, this was only the beginning. In Venice, life was shaped by the tides. Children learned to row before they could run. Fishermen cast their nets just steps from their doorways. Morning markets floated on barges, filled with fresh fish and baskets of bread. The lagoon was not just a border. It was a road, a pantry, a shield. Every sunrise painted the water gold. Every sunset set it on fire. This was a city that lived in the space between water and sky. If you lived in a city like this, where every street was water, what would you love most about it? The quiet sound of oars in the morning? The feeling of being surrounded by shimmering reflections? Or the way the air carries both the smell of the sea and the stories of the past? Tell me in the comments. Your thoughts are part of this journey, too. As the years passed, wood gave way to stone. Builders carried marble across the water, piece by piece. Palaces began to rise, their arches and columns mirrored in the canals. The city grew taller, but its feet were still in the mud, resting on thousands of hidden poles. Venice had learned the secret of balance, to be strong enough to last, yet light enough to float. And soon the world would begin to notice this strange and beautiful place. Venice had no wheels, no hoofbeats. Its sound was softer, oars dipping into water, bells ringing across the lagoon, the quiet hum of voices echoing under stone bridges. At night, the water whispered to the walls. Every sound was shaped by the canals, carried gently through the narrow streets. It was music made by the city itself, a song that could never be heard anywhere else. If this story is flowing through your mind like these waters, take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who dreams of traveling here. Because the more people who join this journey, the more these stories will keep floating, just like Venice itself. Trade was the lifeblood of the city. Small boats brought fish from the lagoon, salt from the sea, and grain from distant lands. Markets bloomed along the canals, stalls filled with colors, voices, and the smell of fresh bread. Here, coins clinked, hands shook, and goods changed owners over the water. Venice was no longer only a refuge, it was becoming a power. As Venice grew, tall watchtowers began to rise above the rooftops. From here, guards could see far across the lagoon, warning of storms, or of ships approaching with unknown intent. The sea, once only a protector, could also bring danger. And so, Venice learned to watch the horizon like a heartbeat, never stopping, never resting. Venice was a puzzle of islands, each one connected by bridges. Some were small and simple, others wide enough for markets to set up along their length. Bridges became more than just paths. They were meeting places, where news spread faster than the tides. And as more bridges were built, the city's heartbeat grew quicker, its lifelines tying every island into one living whole. By now, Venice had transformed from a refuge into a thriving city unlike any other. Its streets of water and palaces of stone seemed almost impossible. Too beautiful, too strange to be real. And perhaps that is why people began to tell stories of saints and spirits, of treasures and curses. Because a city born in such a way must surely have been touched by more than human hands, let us follow these whispers into the legends of Venice. The story begins with a voyage. Long ago, sailors carried the relics of Saint Mark across the sea, hidden beneath layers of pork to fool the guards. When they reached Venice, a storm broke, and yet the city welcomed them with calm waters, as if blessing their arrival. From that day, Saint Mark became Venice's protector, his winged lion watching over the city's gates and squares. On some nights, when the fog drifts low and the lantern light dances, people say shadows move where no one rose. A whisper at your ear, the sound of water lapping against wood, and then nothing. Fishermen speak of pale figures gliding under bridges, their faces hidden, their boats silent. No one follows them. In Venice, some doors are never opened after dark. During the Great Carnival, masks filled the streets, gold, silver, and painted with bright colors. But one mask was different. Plain, white, with lips that never turned upward. It appeared in the crowd year after year, though no one knew who wore it. Some say the mask belonged to a noble who drowned long ago, returning each carnival to watch the living dance. And when the bells ring midnight, the mask disappears. There is a small bridge in Venice where lovers meet at sunset. They say if you whisper your true wish here, the stones will carry it through the canals until it finds the heart of someone who can make it real. Many have tried, leaning close to the warm stone rail, speaking softly into the evening air. And sometimes the wish comes true. If you could stand on that bridge and whisper your own wish into the stones, what would you say? Tell me in the comments. Your words might just float a little further than you think. Far out in the lagoon, there was once a monastery swallowed by the sea. On certain nights, when the tide is right, they say the bells still ring from beneath the waves. Fishermen hear them, soft, distant, as if the sea itself is breathing in rhythm with the chimes. No one dares to sail there after dark. Some say there is a gondolier who appears only to those who are lost. He wears a dark cloak and a wide-brimmed hat, hiding his face in shadow. When he approaches, the air grows still, and the water beneath the boat seems to hush. He never speaks, but his oar moves with slow, perfect strokes, carrying you through narrow canals you have never seen before. Sometimes he vanishes when you look away, your boat drifting alone in the middle of the lagoon. No one knows if he is a spirit guiding lost souls home, or something far older, tied to the waters themselves. If this gondolier came to you, would you follow him? Would you trust the silence, the steady rhythm of the oar, not knowing where it might lead? If this story has you imagining the sound of water under moonlight, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who loves mysterious places. Every shared story keeps Venice's whispers alive. Beneath the famous Rialto Bridge, in the oldest part of the city, lies a story of gold hidden by merchants long ago. They say during a time of war, chests of coins and jewels were lowered into the deep mud below the bridge's pillars, waiting to be claimed again. But Venice's tides are clever, too swift for divers, too murky for sight. Every year, someone tries to search for the treasure, and every year they return with nothing but wet clothes and empty hands. Some believe the city itself protects the gold, keeping it for a day when it will truly be needed. On certain misty mornings, fishermen speak of a black ship drifting far out in the lagoon. Its sails are torn, its deck empty, and yet it moves without wind or oars. Some claim it is the ghost of a merchant vessel that sank centuries ago, cursed after carrying stolen relics. The ship appears silently, gliding past the outer islands, before vanishing into the fog as quickly as it came. Those who have seen it say the water feels colder and the air heavier, as if the ship drags a shadow behind it. A shadow not of wood or sail, but of memory. In a quiet Venetian square stands an old clock tower. Most days it chimes like any other, marking the hours with soft, measured notes. But legend says that on the night of a great storm long ago, the clock struck 13 times. Each chime was said to open a hidden door somewhere in the city, though no one agrees on where. Some believe the extra strike was a warning from the past, others a signal for those who listen closely. The tower still stands, and its bells still ring, but Venetians glance at it carefully, as if remembering a sound that should never have been heard. Venice's legends are like the tides. They return again and again, shaping the city's soul. But beyond the ghosts, treasures, and whispered stories, there is a living city, breathing in the present. The same canals that carried saints and secrets now carry schoolchildren and shopkeepers. The same stones that heard wishes and warnings now hear laughter and music. Let us leave the shadows for now and step into Venice as it is today, alive, luminous, and still unlike any other place on earth. The day begins with the sound of water. Gondolas rock gently against wooden posts, their ropes creaking in the soft breeze. A delivery boat passes by, stacked with baskets of vegetables and fresh bread for the markets. Shutters open above the canal, and a woman leans out, shaking a small rug into the morning air. The scent of coffee drifts from a cafe on the corner, mingling with the salt of the lagoon. The streets are still quiet, but the city is waking, slowly, gracefully, as it has for centuries. By midday, Venice moves to a different rhythm. Tourists wander across bridges, their cameras catching the shimmer of water below. Local shopkeepers stand in doorways, calling greetings to neighbors or arranging displays of glass and lace. Water taxis weave through the canals, their wakes rippling against the gondolas tied along the banks. Somewhere, a street musician plays a slow tune on a violin, his music floating as lightly as the sunlight. The city feels alive, breathing with the ebb and flow of its visitors and its tides. The Rialto market is a burst of life. Stalls overflow with bright oranges, silver fish laid on crushed ice, and piles of fragrant herbs. Vendors call out prices, their voices competing with the chatter of shoppers and the splash of passing boats. A chef selects tomatoes for tonight's pasta, while a child tugs at her mother's sleeve to see the crabs snapping in a bucket. Above it all, the Rialto Bridge casts its stone shadow, a reminder of centuries of trade. Here, Venice is not just history, it is daily life, rich and vivid. From the narrow streets, stone steps lead upward to bridges, and from the bridges you see rooftops with secret gardens. Some are small, with only a few pots of flowers. Others are green islands high above the canals. Here, laundry sways between windows like flags in the breeze. Children chase each other across tiny terraces, their laughter mingling with the call of gulls. Life in Venice has always been shaped by water, but above it there is another world, one of sunlight, flowers, and sky. If you are enjoying this quiet walk through Venice, consider subscribing. There are so many more cities, stories, and whispers of the past waiting for us to explore together. From the calmest canals to the loudest festivals, each place has its own heartbeat, and I would like to share them all with you. The Grand Canal is Venice's main artery, curving through the city like a slow-moving river. Vaporetto water buses pass palaces with painted facades, while gondolas glide in their graceful arcs. The canal changes with the light, pale silver in the morning, shimmering gold at sunset, and deep sapphire under the moon. It has carried kings, merchants, lovers, and dreamers. And even now, with the noise of modern engines, it feels timeless, its waters holding the city's story as surely as its stones. Once a year, Venice becomes a living stage. The carnival paints the streets with color and mystery. Masks of gold and feathers, silk gowns trailing across ancient stones. The air fills with music, laughter, and the scent of roasted chestnuts. Dancers move in the squares. Gondolas carry masked couples along glittering canals, and the city glows as if lit from within. For a few days, time feels suspended, and Venice becomes both the past and the present, breathing together in celebration. If you could join the carnival for just one day, who would you be? A mysterious figure in silver and black? A noble from centuries past? Or perhaps someone with no mask at all, walking unseen among the crowd? Tell me in the comments. I would love to know what part of Venice's grand performance you would play. As the day fades, the square of San Marco turns to gold. Pigeons scatter across the stones, their wings catching the last light. The basilica's domes glow, and the campanile casts a long shadow toward the lagoon. Musicians play soft tunes in the cafe terraces, and the air is warm with the smell of coffee and sea salt. Here, the heart of Venice beats slowly, in rhythm with the setting sun, as if the city itself is pausing to watch the light slip into the water. When darkness falls, Venice changes. The crowds thin, and the sound of footsteps echoes softly across empty bridges. Lanterns glow along the canals, their reflections swaying on the water's surface. Shadows stretch across old brick walls, and the air smells of the sea, cool and deep. Some windows stay lit, spilling golden light onto the streets below, while others close tight, as if guarding their own quiet stories. The city feels more intimate now, closer, slower, and more like a whispered secret than a bustling square. Venice listens to the tides like a clock. On some nights, the water creeps higher than usual, lapping at the steps of houses and spilling onto the squares. Locals know the signs: the distant siren, the boards laid down for walking above the flooded stones. Tourists pause, amazed, but for Venetians, this is part of life. The city has always lived with water, but the water has grown bolder. It is both a reminder and a warning. Venice is strong, but it is never untouchable. Now, as we drift away from Venice, the oars dip softly, and the city's lights shimmer in the distance. We have walked its markets, crossed its bridges, listened to its legends, and felt its tides. Venice is more than stone and water. It is a living story, written and rewritten with each sunrise and sunset. And though we leave now, the city stays with us, floating quietly in memory. Let us carry that stillness into the night as we step into our final farewell. The gondola glides quietly, and the sounds of the city fade. Only the splash of the oar remains, gentle and steady, as we move through the dim light. Lanterns along the shore shimmer in the ripples, each reflection trembling like a memory about to fade. The air is cool, carrying the scent of the lagoon, and the sky above is scattered with faint stars. Venice seems to drift behind us, but its shape remains, etched in water, stone, and the quiet spaces between them. Venice is not a place you simply visit. It is a place you feel. It lives in the quiet lap of the tide against the steps, in the worn stones beneath your feet, in the warmth of a window's light spilling into the dark. The city seems to breathe with the water, rising and falling as it always has. Every story told here becomes part of that breath, carried along the canals and out into the open sea. If this journey through Venice stayed with you, even for a moment, leave a like, and come walk with me again, in the dark, in the hush, in the stories that still breathe. Because every city has its secrets, and every secret waits for someone to listen. The water stretches ahead, dark and endless. The city's voice fades, replaced by the soft murmur of the lagoon. The stars above are mirrored in the ripples, so that it feels like we are drifting between two skies, one above, one below. We are leaving Venice, but part of us remains behind, resting on a bridge, leaning over a canal, or walking slowly through the square of San Marco. And perhaps, in some quiet hour, the city will remember us too.